we'll be focusing on time alignment. So, getting started with the table of contents. This lecture will be focusing on number 1, cycle alignment, and number 2, intraday alignment. So this one isn't going to be too entirely long, relatively straight, short to the point, but there is a lot of information to unpack. So getting started with cycle alignment. Each cycle is to be viewed from a specific time frame in order to minimize confusion. And keep in mind, this is only for viewing the cycle, not what is a byproduct of what happens on the cycle. So it's extremely important to understand which time frame to use when viewing each cycle. And this is going to be for things that are later down the line, because there are certain things that come about that you can only see if you are aligned with the proper time frame. Now, if you are looking for things to do after a specific Kraken correlation or whatever you're looking for appears on a cycle, it doesn't really matter the time frame. There are different sequences for different market conditions and all of that good stuff, but the important thing to note is that, let's say, okay, I want to look at the weekly cycle. You immediately flip to the weekly cycle time frame. Or I want to look at the 90-minute cycle. Then you immediately flip to the 90-minute cycle time frame, and so on and so forth. So what are these time frames? Well, getting started with the monthly cycle, you would view the monthly cycle from the 4-hour time frame, and the weekly cycle, you view the weekly cycle from the 1-hour time frame. And for the daily cycle, you view the daily cycle through the lens of the 15-minute time frame. And for the 90-minute cycle, you use the 5-minute time frame. And then finally, we have the microcycle with the 1-minute time frame. So some of you are probably like, wait a second, the 90-minute cycle and the microcycle? We haven't talked about this yet. Well, if you've been following along, right, we still utilize the microcycle and the 90-minute cycle, but we mainly focus on, for the bigger picture, the monthly, the weekly, and the daily cycle. But for all of these cycles, this is the important thing that you want to have written down, and you want to have right beside you, and you want to have memorized. And again, we really only use the 90-minute cycle and the microcycle whenever it comes to intraday trading, which is what we're going to talk about after this slide. So now that you have all of this, we will get into intraday alignment. So the New York morning session is the highest probability session during the day due to its volatility. All right, out of every single session, if you are intraday trading, the New York morning session is the go-to. All right, this is where everything takes place. This is where more times, I would say 8 times out of 10, the higher low of the day occurs, the main move of the day will occur, right? All of that happens in the New York morning session. But during the morning session, volatility shifts, thus causing different time frames to be utilized throughout the session. So just like how there's different means of volatility throughout the day, there's also different means of volatility throughout the session, right? Keep in mind, everything is fractal, and properly utilizing this and understanding the alignment is going to be with this sequence right here. So from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and this is the morning for Eastern Standard Time, right? We only use Eastern Standard Time. We're going to use the 15-minute time frame. From 9 o'clock to 9:30, that's whenever you're able to open up the 5-minute chart. Now, does that mean the 15-minute chart is completely unusable now? No. It just means now, if you look on a 5-minute chart, things that happen on the 5-minute time frame will become higher probability. And then from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, that is really the only time where the 1-minute time frame is of use. And the key signatures that we look for will form. So some of you might be a little confused on like, well, which time frame do I pick? Well, you can use any of the 3 time frames as long as it's within the correct time. So again, just because from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, the 1-minute time frame is of use, doesn't mean that the 5-minute and the 15-minute don't matter anymore, right? You can still look at those. But if it's from 9 o'clock to 9:30, then you know, okay, don't use the 1-minute. Or if it's from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, then don't use the 5-minute. And this isn't all there is to it, right? Earlier in this lecture, you understood which time frames are aligned to specific cycles. And if you can put 2 and 2 together, then you can understand that it's deeper than just time frame, right? It's deeper than, okay, from this time to this time, focus on this time frame, right? It's from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, you can look for a daily cycle sequential SMT. From 9 o'clock to 9:30, you'll look for a 90-minute cycle sequential SMT. And from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, you look for a microcycle sequential SMT. And each one of these cycles, right, a cracking correlation can occur during any time of the day on any of these cycles. But narrowing it down to this time window right here and specifying it to its aligned time frame gives you the highest probability for these specific cracking correlations here to work, right? And again, just like with what we said about the time frames, it also applies with the cracking correlations associated with the time frame. So just because it's from 9 o'clock to 9:30 doesn't mean a daily cycle can occur. But if it's from 9 o'clock to 9:30, you know that you're not going to look for a microcycle sequential SMT. And if anybody has any questions on this, we can talk about it a lot during our market overviews. So with that being said, hopefully you all found this one insightful, and I'll speak with you all again soon. Good luck and good trading.